What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Doing well, Steve. We are wrapping up May and about to enter June. Summer right around the corner, even though it kind of feels like summer here. I think the official start to summer is coming up here in just a few weeks.
Yeah. It's kind of the lull of the year where, the draft's done, free agency's done. You're dealing with your oddball drop every once in a while, like Hopkins.
Yeah.
But a lot of rookie mocks are done, or rookie drafts are done. Not a lot of people are trading, so it's just kind of like the average pickups you're left. Wait and see what happens with Zeke and Fournette and that kind of stuff. That's probably not going to be super relevant, but might hurt somebody. But yeah, it's a quiet part to start mocking, right?
Yeah, that is the key here. You want to get ahead of the game and get an idea of where everyone starts here in the summer and to see how the ADPs change, who's moving up, who's moving down, and kind of let some of that help dictate who you're going with in some of these drafts.
Yeah. So today we're doing a 12-team PPR mock. So I guess this is our first official mock. We do the too early mock draft earlier in the year where ADPs are kind of weird. So hopefully we got some real ADPs and we can do a real draft and just see what kind of strategies we're going to be employing this year, whether it's going to be a wide receiver heavy earlier. What can you do with the quarterback position, the tight end positions? A lot to figure out over the next couple months, right?
Yeah, with the unofficial start to summer here with Memorial Day weekend, we kind of get the first official start of mock draft season as we kind of enter June. I am trying to adjust my mindset here as I'm looking at the kind of the big board for our mock draft coming up here. A lot of the names around me, I'm still trying to adjust out of the dynasty mindset. Some of these guys, I'm like, do I really want them? But you got to flip your switch to get back to that 1 year. And guys like Cooper Kupp, some older receivers here. So interesting to see some players that you're going to get drafted obviously a lot higher in redraft.
Yeah. It's tough to break away from that mold. And then at the same time, also breaking away from the late round quarterback, late tight end kind of you still try to execute on it, but it's not as easy as it once was. And I think it's been a couple year process of us trying to move away from it. But this will be fun to kind of play around with that, see what kind of late round quarterbacks are there. In fact, I did think of a question I had for you earlier.
Oh, what do we got?
Would you be comfortable with Aaron Rodgers as your QB1?
I think if I waited enough, yeah. I mean, I'd have to double check because I feel like he's kind of just outside of the QB1, ADP here.
ADP is 111.
Okay.
Which would be what, the 11th round?
Yeah,
10th
yeah.
round?
So
something like that.
A little down, but you got what? 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you have a good 6, 9. Yeah, he's QB 14. So, you probably take him ahead of Kyler with the injury concerns. But yeah, I mean, I think if I waited, Russell Wilson, some kind of bounce back guys, Geno Smith or some of those guys that are a little bit lower down that you're okay to go with if you're in that late round quarterback mentality.
Yeah. Just some of the things we're going to have to figure out here as we start the journey,
Yeah, absolutely.
You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Cool. I don't think I mentioned you're drafting out of the 6. I am on the turn at the 12 spot, so lucky me for the first mock. But let's get going here. Chase is 101, Cooper Kupp 102, Christian McCaffrey 103, then Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, one running back in the first 5 picks. That is quite interesting.
Yeah. You imagine that's probably going to change for most drafts, but it'll be interesting to see because I think year to year it's pretty cyclical, and the drafts tend to react to the last year. And I think it was more, just without just looking at numbers, I feel like from just a feel standpoint, it feels like it was a worse year for running backs and a better year for receivers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of leagues leaning more toward the receiver. I know that's kind of in a couple drafts. I leaned into that last draft, while everyone was going running back way, I kind of leaned out and had some teams that were pretty well built and just needed to hit on some running backs week to week. So it's interesting. There is a couple of running backs on the board here. JT, Austin Eckler, kind of the big two that ADP wise are there. You still have Henry, Saquon Barkley, Chubb, Jacobs. We still don't have the running back, the rookies rising up. Bijan Robinson, I think, is by the end of the summer going to be an easily first round pick here when people with the hype moving up on him. And it'll be interesting to see. I think he's a very good player. And, I think I probably would not mind taking him toward the end of the draft, maybe where you are. So it'll be interesting to see if you make a move on that here early, but not this early with some of the guys that are still here. Diggs, Adams, CeeDee Lamb, all good receivers, but none I think that are worth passing on one of these running backs. I'm not looking at the quarterback position. So for me, it's really, do I want to go with the Kelsey pick and get that tight end, the kind of difference making tight end out of the way, or go with one of these top running backs? So it comes down to Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler here for me. And it's kind of like a tale of 2 years. I mean, last year this wouldn't even be a question going into the year. Jonathan Taylor is like the guy. But as we talked about earlier, typically rookie quarterbacks, skill players don't hit as well as skill players that don't have a rookie quarterback. I know you talked to some of the numbers, but most of them were down about 10 spots in the position group, right?
Yeah, for wide receivers, yes, you were 10 down. Tight end, I think you were like 5-ish down, and running back wasn't that bad. That was like 3 or 4 spots down from a rookie quarterback compared to a regular.
Yeah, it probably lends to relying on the rookie quarterback as well. So, and that's really where Jonathan Taylor shines. I think he's going to really benefit if we do see that Richardson is going to hit as a good quarterback. But as long as he can at least be a good runner, a la Justin Fields his rookie year. Last year he looked pretty solid too from as a running standpoint. I think this draft I'm going to take the shot here with Jonathan Taylor. We'll see as I go through it. For me, it's kind of coin toss between the two. Talent wise, obviously it's Taylor, but situation, I mean, Austin Eckler is still in a great situation. A lot of good receivers, not a ton of competition behind him. But I'm going to roll the dice on Jonathan Taylor this time. We'll see how the team turns out with that early running back. So after him, Devontae Adams, Austin Eckler, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, AJ Brown gets to you there. Anybody you were hoping for? Anybody you're happy to see?
Yeah, a few people. Before I touch on them, I will shout out something with that stat that I think is interesting. With the rookie QBs, that comes from JJ Zacharyson. But B, you have to figure if you're a team starting a rookie quarterback, you're probably not a good team to begin with. Like Brock Purdy as a rookie starting for a very good team is not the normal. Normally you are like the Texans, right? So naturally your wide receivers are going to be worse than the other teams because your team probably sucks. So I don't know how you remove that from any sort of calculation. I don't remember him talking about that, but just an interesting thought. The team's already probably bad.
Yeah, maybe take a look. If you just look at teams that were 500 or above by the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that gives you something, and it probably is a very small amount with rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe not having a ton of team success, but
yep, yeah, it's just an interesting thought. But here, there's a lot of interesting players here. So I like on the turn taking one of each. Gives me like more flexibility moving forward. I don't mind in a typical year going 0 RB. That's what I did last year in our league and got smoked for it. But that strategy doesn't work well when no one's taking no one's taking running backs. So I feel like I need to bob and take 2 running backs because that, we're down, we've had, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wide receivers go already, only 4 running backs. So I can get 2 premier running backs here. And then wide receivers just a deeper position. Like I'd be fine getting them later. And then I'm looking, we got Derrick Henry here. We got Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Brees Hall's here, Bijan, like you said. So there's plenty of good options. And that actually makes it difficult because, yeah, like you had mentioned, would I be interested in Bijan? Absolutely. Like, I'm not sure. I don't think Bijan would be here in a real draft. I think come ADP, he's going to end up, somewhere between 3 and 8, 9, something like that. I think people are going to be all over him. But for the sake of it right now, like, yeah, Bijan would be the one I want. I guess I'll skip out on him because I don't think he's actually going to be there. But it's going to be very draft dependent. If this is a wide receiver heavy year, then that very well could be the case. But for me, like right now, the question's Derrick Henry and how good do I think Derrick Henry's going to be this year? Because you got to assume the drop off's coming. That whole offense doesn't seem very good. That doesn't necessarily bother Derrick Henry any. But I think I'm going to bob away from him, and I'm just going to grab Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb. Two guys I believe in that are going to be really good this year. Neither of them have any real competition in the backfield anymore. Not that Derrick Henry does, but yeah, I think I'm getting two, I want to say workhorse. I don't know if you want to call Nick Chubb a workhorse because he doesn't get pass catching. But he's a workhorse of sorts. Yeah, indeed. So we're just going to lock them in there. We'll see what comes back, but I'm happy having two stud running backs here to start. CeeDee Lamb goes off the board. We got two quarterbacks going. Patrick Mahomes goes, Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, and then Josh Jacobs with the 206, and you're back on.
Yeah, makes it interesting. I was hoping one of those other running backs in Jacobs and Chubb got down to me. Well, that's not the case. CeeDee Lamb would have been nice as well, but didn't hold my breath on that one. So it comes down to still the running back and receiver position. Jalen Hurts, probably in consideration in the second round for a lot of teams, and he is an elite quarterback. I just can't bring myself to take one this early with the quality of running back and receiver still here on the board. Mark Andrews is also in consideration, but once again, those onesie positions for me just aren't as valuable as the positions that you have to start multiple running backs, multiple receivers. Usually they're in for your flexes as well. So looking at the receiver position, ADP has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. So still some solid receivers on the board. If I go running back here, I wouldn't mind looking for some upside in the Garrett Wilson or maybe Devonta Smith in the next round. Looking at running back, really the only guy I think that sticks out, Najee Harris, ADP is 19, so still there. Brees Hall, if you want to take a shot on the upside there, I think Brees Hall is a good pick. We'll see about Dalvin Cook because ADP is still pretty high, but there's word that he is going to be moved on from, so it just it's still uncertain. ETN got some uncertainty there, as well as Kenneth Walker with some rookies behind them. So does that eat into some of their work? I imagine Bijan's going to be gone, so I'm not going to take him here just because, it's someone I would definitely take here. But in drafts, I'm going to imagine he'll be gone toward the end of the round there. So don't really want to have that listed here and not be able to look back to this because it doesn't look like it's gonna be the case. So it comes down to Najee Harris for me at running back, and then do I want more of kind of the upside or the stability with an Amon-Ra St. Brown versus a Jalen Waddle? I think I'm going to go with kind of one of the last running backs that I think is a stalwart back, still is going to get a good amount of receptions. And Najee Harris, they've done a really good job with the offensive line this year. And Kenny Pickett, just a second year into the offense, I don't know that he's ever going to be, championship quarterback. But I think this team will be good enough to contend for the playoffs at the very least. And that's going to be behind, a decent receiving core there and a good running game, I think. So I'm going to go Najee Harris here. We'll see what gets back to me from a receiver standpoint. Jalen Waddle goes, Brees Hall, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dalvin Cook and ETN, and the second round, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Deebo Samuel, and Kenneth Walker come off the board. Bijan still sitting here for the same reason, not going to take him just, because of don't expect that he's going to be getting out of the first round most drafts. Mark Andrews is very interesting here, someone that I think would be a good fit, and it would be almost a zero wide receiver offense. But he's interesting. You have a running back, Joe Mixon, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Stevenson. So still some good running backs on the board. Receivers, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith. Garrett Wilson would be the pick for me at receiver if I decide to go that route. Quarterback, we've still got Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and then Mark Andrews at tight end. It's tough. As much as I want to go Mark Andrews, this is a situation where middle of third round, this is where I want to go with Garrett Wilson. I think the upside is just too high there. If I'm looking at late round quarterback, we talked before the show here about Aaron Rodgers, and I think he would be a solid late round quarterback to get, and being able to pair him with an elite young receiver like the Jets just have and Garrett Wilson makes a lot of sense to me. So going to lock in Garrett Wilson and through 3 rounds be an all AFC team so far. So after Garrett Wilson, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, Mark Andrews, number 9, if you were hoping for him to get to you. Bijan Robinson finally off the board at 310. We'll have to kind of mark that down, Steve, and as we go draft by draft, see how he changes. And then Joe Mixon at 311.
Yeah, I'm surprised Bijan got that far. There's a few of them. Bijan Andrews is the 309. Like, he's not a rookie, so you would think that's a good ADP, but it seems really low. Garrett Wilson, I'm assuming, is going to be higher as well. But it's hard to say. I mean, more quarterbacks are going, so that's going to push other people down, right? So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now, again, we're considering quarterbacks, so I'm going to take a look at everything here. At the quarterback position, we got Herbert, Lamar, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Dak, Deshaun Watson. At running back, Pollard, Swift, Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins. At wide receiver, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith, Terry McLaurin, D-Hop, Amari Cooper, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, and then at tight end, Kittle, Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard, Waller, Schultz, Ingram. I don't really know what to do. Because we're kind of in the weird spot of we're in the third round, but we haven't seen a ton of running backs go. I like the running backs that are here. Like Pollard seems nice. I know Swift is a bit of a risk, but plenty of upside. Stevenson looks to be good. Javonte and Kamara, I probably want to do. James Conner's fine. J.K. Dobbins is fine. So I'm still liking that. And I might do it and just have 3 running backs because I kind of like Pollard and Stevenson. I don't know which one carries more risk. I feel like I could draft Pollard and then Zeke will end up there or something like that. Stevenson, I feel like, is the guy, but on a worse offense. But I think I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to grab Mr. Pollard. Even if Zeke's back, you got to imagine he's got an even better role than he did last year. So we're going to grab him. And now's the part where it gets a little tough. I could play the ADP game and say, well, most people don't have a ton of running backs, so a lot of running backs are going to go between now and then. So I could grab a quarterback or a tight end and then just feast on the wide receivers that are left. Because I am Justin Herbert's here, Lamar Jackson's here, Justin Fields. I'd be happy with one of those 3.
Considered Herbert if I was going to go quarterback at that pick as well.
And I don't the way they're going. I don't know that all 3 are going to get back to me, but that would be wild if we had 7 quarterbacks go in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So I
mean, it shows, I guess, how confident people are in that top tier.
Yeah, for real.
Top 2 tiers, really.
And then at the tight end position, it just kind of dries up. You got Kittle, which is he's solid sometimes and not. Hawkinson, which seems to be pretty good in Minnesota, but now you got Addison there. It's going to cause some problems. Kyle Pitts, I don't want to play that game again, really. Goddard, solid. Waller, who knows what he is. Schultz, I don't know. Ingram, Njoku, Komet. I guess I could wait. I feel like I'd rather roll the dice, but there's also no wide receiver that's really jumping out at me. Keenan Allen seems safe. Um, I kind of like the upside that maybe Olave would give me as my one. That kind of scares me as a one. Um, like Amari Cooper's probably the better play. He was pretty solid last year. But I'm gonna just go ahead. I'm gonna lock in Olave. I'm gonna grab some upside at the wide receiver position. We'll roll the dice and see if any quarterbacks get back to me, or with the tight end position. It doesn't look like Herbert's gonna get back to me.
No.
Keenan Allen goes right after me, and then Swift, Stevenson, Hawkinson, and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, so there's a couple guys I was hoping got back. Justin Herbert, one of them, did not. Obviously, pretty good value there in the middle of the fourth round here for him. I think he's kind of that, for me, that top tier. You could maybe put Lamar in there as well, but I think those top five are pretty solid tier. So interesting to see them spread out, between the 2-5 and the 4-6. The other guy I was really looking for is Devonta Smith. I think the Eagles' offense has been good. Last year, he proved that Jalen Hurts was able to sustain two top tier wide receivers, and I think we're going to see it again with Devonta Smith. He just has gotten better each year so far. He was wide receiver 9 in PPR, 10 in standard, and it's just going into year 3. He just looks like he gets better and better, especially with A.J. Brown, top receiver, taking a lot of the coverage away. So just to look at the other positions, Lamar Jackson, Fields, Trevor Lawrence. Lamar, I guess, would be the one there that would stand out at receiver. Running back, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Miles Sanders would be someone I'd be interested in. But no one, I think, that would make me want to pass on Devonta Smith. And George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, solid, but not, also not going to make me pass on a guy that I think really has top 10 upside to get here in the middle of the fourth round and pair him with the guy that I think has really good upside in Wilson. I think, worst case, Smith is going to, be a low end 1, high end 2. So Garrett Wilson have got a little bit more stability behind him and with the Devonta Smith here. So I'm going to lock in Devonta Smith and my reign of AFC players, unfortunately. Got Lamar Jackson going next, Terry McLaurin, Alvin Kamara, Michael Pittman, and Amari Cooper. And the fourth round, to start the fifth round, George Kittle, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, and Javonte Williams. So still on the board, Justin Fields, quarterback. We've got Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Tua, tight end, Kyle Pitts, Goddard, Waller, Schultz, Ingram. So still some decent tight ends there. At running back, we've got James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, Akers. Of that bunch, Miles Sanders sticks out the most to me. I think they just paid him. They're going to really rely on him, especially with the rookie running back or with the rookie quarterback. So as we talked about the rookie quarterback stat, I'll be looking to here draft 2 of the 3 running backs that are going to be with definite starters and definitely rookie starters. So be interested to test that theory a little bit. But as you said, it seems like it impacts receivers and tight ends more than running backs. But just looking once again here at receiver, Godwin, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, Calvin Ridley, London. There's a lot of receivers that I still like in this tier where I think Miles Sanders is one of the last guys I really like in this running back tier. Connor, Dobbins, Pierce, Akers, Montgomery, all solid. But I think Miles Sanders is going to get the bulk of the work. And I'm just iffy on some of the other guys here. Obviously, Connor, Dobbins, Pierce, I think we expect to get most of the work. But I think we've seen it more from Miles the last few years. So I'm going to lock in Miles Sanders, get my third running back out of the way here. Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Fields goes just before you, Steve.
Yeah, so I got burned literally 1 pick before me.
Yeah, 3 quarterbacks you were looking at.
Yep, the 3 I wanted, and I was getting hopeful, man. I was getting hopeful. I had to survive, 2 teams on the way from you to me and got burned right before. That feels great. So looking at quarterbacks, we got Trevor Lawrence, Dak, Watson, Tua, Kyler, Kirk, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson, blah, blah, blah. Gino is down there. But we're not really in the inspiring category. We're kind of in the fine category. Trevor's not bad. Dak's okay. Watson, I don't know how to feel. Like, I feel like 1 year removed, he's probably got a lot of upside. Maybe he could bounce back and be that top guy he used to be. We've seen a lot of good things from Tua, but the injury concerns. Kirk's got more weapons. We talked about Aaron Rodgers earlier. So, like, I'm at the point where, how many teams don't have a quarterback at this point? 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, I'm just going to wait.
Yeah. There's enough of us. And you got to think they probably don't start going double QBs until around 9 or 10, maybe later.
You would think, yeah. So, and in, know your league. If you're in a league that they don't draft a lot of double QBs, you can wait even longer. So, there's one clear player that I want. I'm going to lock him in now and make Will unhappy. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert.
Oh, there it is. Get that tight end.
Yeah, strike at tight end. Like, Kyle Pitts is there and appealing. But the burns are fresh. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a mock at some point this year. I'll pull the trigger, but it ain't going to be today. So we're just going to lock in Mr. Goddard. We'll take a look back at the running back position. Still some interesting options. You got James Conner, that's still here. Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers, if you want to take that upside shot. Montgomery could be fine. Pacheco, Rashad White. Then it starts kind of falling off. So you still do have your final options if you haven't grabbed a lot of running backs, but I got 3. So I'm okay waiting. We're going to turn to the wide receiver position. We got Calvin Ridley, Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson. I'm sitting here with just Olave. So I don't think I want to take the risk with Calvin Ridley and his return. I like Drake London. I like the volume he's going to get, but you got an iffy quarterback situation there. I don't know if I want to pair that with, assuming Olave is going to break out. I think I want the reliability of either Deontay Johnson or Tyler Lockett. The Pittsburgh offense as a whole got a lot better in the second half of the year. Whether that trend continues or not, who knows? Tyler Lockett, we know, is very good. But now with JSN there, does he eat away at him? He's getting a little bit older, blah, blah. I do think I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson. That feels kind of bad. But I'm a little bit more confident in that offense, taking a step forward. Mike Tomlin's a good coach. Second year, Kenny Pickett. Offensive line's getting better. So I'm going to lock in Deontay Johnson as my wide receiver 2 and begin the long wait back. Kyle Pitts goes right after me. I'm going to ask you a question about him in a second, but we got Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers, Calvin Ridley, Drake London. So plenty of good options going off the board right before your pick. Would you have gone Kyle Pitts?
So I was weighing that option with another player that I may go right here in Darren Waller. I've risen on him a little bit. I like the landing spot. It's really grown on me just because there's not that alpha wide receiver there. There's a lot of solid receivers, but I feel like there's not really a bunch of size there, right? I mean, Sterling Shepard, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, like a lot of good speed options, but not a ton of size. And obviously you're going to have some quarterback touchdowns, so some touchdowns stolen by Daniel Jones, but I think he could be a big red zone threat here, and he could be, maybe behind Saquon Barkley at times, Daniel Jones' favorite target. So he is a guy that I think, I don't know, I almost feel better than Kyle Pitts. It's crazy to think. Maybe, like you said, it's just recency bias with how crazy it has been with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I don't know. Waller concerns me. I don't know. I see a valuable position like the tight end. As good as he was, getting moved to a different team seems bad. And he didn't have a great year last year.
Yeah, he was down last year for sure.
Like, I worry he just, like, this is the new normal, and you're just going to end up with a tight end 5 to 8, which isn't ideal. But yeah, I mean, the story is there, like you said, like he could be the target hog. the one and only option there, and then that could be incredibly valuable. So I get it. I totally see it, and I'm
Mhm.
tempted, but I'm kind of scared at the same time.
Yeah, and there's no quarterbacks that really call out to me here. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I think definitely could take the step up, but with three of the five teams behind me already having a quarterback, I, he would be the one that I'd be looking to take. And at this point, I'm probably going to look to just try to get another receiver or go with the tight end position there with Waller. I think there's a little bit more of a tier break after Waller, Schultz, Ingram, Fryermuth. I think you have a little bit more stability in Waller, and I do think he does have big upside as well there, even if it's just for a year or two, as he did just hit the age 30. So we've got a receiver, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson, Hollywood Brown. I think is someone that's really interesting as well, and Brandon Ayuk. A couple of guys that I think would be solid. I imagine one of them will get back to me in case Mr. Trevor Lawrence does not. Um, so it comes down to me at this point. Do I want to go with the tight end position of Waller, one of those receivers, or do I just not risk it and take a guy in Trevor Lawrence that I think we've seen, kind of a level up last year where he went from, really questioning being the number one pick in 2021 to getting a good offense around him and moving into the top 10 quarterback last year. And obviously, top 10 isn't incredible, 8, but he did have a few weeks where he did look really good too. He had QB3, QB4, QB8, 8, 5, 1, 5, 10. So he does have some really big weeks, especially later in the year. So I think, some success in the playoffs too. I think I've talked myself into just getting Lawrence here. And, I do like to kind of gamble and risk it, but a lot of receivers drafted to the teams behind me here. And as you alluded to, there is a little bit, more worry, I think, in Waller. I think Lawrence has a higher floor, comparison wise, different position, obviously, but also has that upside and maybe even more upside. So I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence here in the 6th round. And after him, Tyler Lockett goes, Connor, Montgomery, Waller, and Watson to end the round. Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White, Brandon Ayuk, Dalton Schultz, and Hollywood Brown. A couple of the receivers I was looking at in Hollywood, Ayuk, and Lockett go off the board, so that's a bummer. But we still got some interesting players here. Not looking at quarterback, but Prescott, Watson, Tua are the top guys on ADP. I'm probably going to be punting tight end at this point. Ingram isn't bad, especially to kind of have that stack. But I don't think I necessarily need to make that pick here, and I don't think I would want to sacrifice some other position. So we'll take a look at what else is here. We've got Christian Kirk, which is an interesting stack. I know a lot of people are a little more out on him with the return of I'm blanking on his name here, Calvin Ridley. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I know, Christian Kirk coming off of, I think, it looks like knee rehab here in the offseason. I think he still will be heavily involved. And given that I, only have 2 receivers on the team, a receiver would be ideal here. Running backs, you've got Elliott, AJ Dillon, James Cook, Fournette, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams. Not a ton of guys that are really inspiring at this point. I think we've got some later guys that I'd be more interested in to get depth. So for me, it's receiver or tight end, and none of the tight ends are really calling out here, as I talked about. So I think Christian Kirk is the pick here. A good receiver. I think maybe the ceiling's a little bit lower, but he still has a solid floor. And as a wide receiver 3 with this team, built pretty well, especially getting a little stack there with Trevor Lawrence. Always like to get that. So we're going to go Christian Kirk. After Kirk, Juju Smith-Schuster, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, Treylon Burks, who's another interesting option, and George Pickens.
Yeah, let's see what we have here. We don't have to look at the tight end position anymore, so that's awesome. We do still got plenty of quarterbacks here. We got Watson, Tua, Kyler, Kirk, Aaron Rodgers, Russ, Gino, blah, blah. So plenty of good options there. While running back, we got AJ Dillon, James Cook, Fournette, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier, Antonio Gibson still here, Khalil Herbert, Elijah Mitchell, Rashad Penny could be interesting. Jamar Gibbs That is not going to stand. I forgot
No,
about
that'll fly
Gibbs.
up.
There's no way. So he would be the easy pick, but I'll just go ahead and avoid him because I don't. There's no way.
Yeah, well, that's hard this early in the offseason when ADP has been baked in for
Yeah,
the rookies.
yeah, and that's
You
exactly
don't
it.
want to sway what your team will look like,
Yeah,
especially looking back at it
yeah.
come
So
later in the offseason.
now I'm looking and I'm kind of regretting going 3 running backs early because I wouldn't mind like Antonio Gibson as my 3, rolling the dice on Herbert or Mitchell or Penny, Damian Harris, A Chain, Roshan, maybe. There's different options here. I mean, they're really not great threes. Um, Antonio Gibson's probably a fine 3, but the wide receiver position I'm less thrilled about, and that's what I need. So we got Sutton, Gabe Davis, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, Kadarius Toney, Jameson Williams, John Dotson, Bateman, Thielen, Mooney, Lazard, JSN. The rookies. So that's kind of tough. Like Sutton, I've always liked Sutton, but it wasn't the best last year. Gabe Davis, I'm kind of out on. Michael Thomas, I don't think I want to mess with. Brandon Cooks could be interesting in Dallas. Especially he doesn't have to be the one on his team for the first time in a long time. So that might be really good for him. Kadarius Toney, do you want to take the shot? I kind of want to, but I'm kind of scared with this team, so I don't think I'm going to. Jameson Williams has a suspension. I'm not going to take a shot there. I think I'm going to go back to back wide receivers here and could wait on the quarterback because there's 3 teams left. Yeah, still 3 teams that don't have one. I'm okay waiting. I'm going to grab the veteran and Brandon Cooks. Hope that number 2 role, keeps him steady and relevant, and they could use a solid number 2 there in Dallas. And then I'm going to take an upside shot with Dotson at Washington. I know we both like Dotson. He was on my team last year, and he's pretty. I think he was. No, he wasn't. I keep thinking he was on my team, but he wasn't. But he was solid last year until I believe he got hurt, right? So I'm expecting.
I think he came on later as a rookie, played well, got hurt, but then he actually came back and played well again after the injury.
Yeah, he had a lot of touchdowns, and he just looks solid. So I can see a next year bump out of him. So this team, if Olave and
quarterback
Dotson,
is the worry there, I think.
Yeah, quarterback is definitely the fear because I don't. It's Sam, right? Who am I thinking? It's
Howell.
Sam Howell. There you go. Yes.
But who knows? Maybe Brissett.
Yeah, maybe Brissett. Yeah,
doesn't. I don't think either inspire a ton of confidence.
No, but Brissett, carried Amari Cooper last year to fantasy relevance, so he could support one, whether it's McLaurin or Dotson, who knows? But his quarterback play is not going to be any worse.
Split, and neither are really relevant.
It's very true. It's possible. But I'm happy taking the veteran shot and the younger player shot. Moving on, AJ Dillon, Gabe Davis, James Cook, Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton. You're back on.
All right, so tight ends are still here in Ingram and Freiermuth. Getting Christian Kirk. Don't particularly want to load too much up on that position or on that team. And there are 3 later tight ends that I like that I'm probably just going to punt that position here. So the rest of the draft, I'm not even going to worry about quarterback. We're just going to be looking at running back and receiver. I think this is the point with like Toney, Jameson Williams, Bateman as like kind of the top guys. This is where I'd probably be looking to take a shot on one of the rookies. You have your 3 first-round rookies in Smith and Jigba, Addison, Johnston, Flowers. Addison and Johnson are probably the 2 that I'd want to draft. JSN, I feel like we are happy for him or excited for him long term, but I could see him coming out a little slower, just being in 3 receiver sets there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted early and someone just gets all ticked off after a few weeks because he's not doing anything, and you get him off the waiver wire or what he really turns it on maybe later in the year. So Addison would be the top guy, and Johnson, I think, for me here for this year, someone that maybe comes out of the gate and plays well. But I want to go running back first, and we'll see if any of those rookies get back to me here. And you mentioned him earlier, Antonio Gibson. There's been some hype around him. Obviously, it's his hype train season, but it's really him, Brian Robinson, and I think new offense. Wouldn't be surprised, if we see him get back involved. I feel like when the offensive coordinator has really tried to get him involved, he's played well. Getting him as my fourth running back here, pretty happy to get. So I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson. Evan Ingram goes next. Deshaun Watson, Brian Robinson, Leonard Fournette, Tua Tagovailoa, Adam Thielen, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Algier, Pat Freiermuth, and Kyler Murray. So don't need to talk too much more as my top guy that I was hoping for and Addison gets back to me here. Jordan Addison, rookie for the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's got the biggest opportunity to see time and snaps early out of all the rookie receivers. With that first round capital, he's the guy that has the clearest path to the wide receiver 2. Obviously, capped on upside where that alpha on that team will be the guy across the way from him. But I really like what he presents here as a good wide receiver 2 with the team that I'm building around him. So I'm going to lock in Jordan Addison here in the 9th round as my wide receiver 2. After him, Kadarius Toney, Khalil Herbert, David Njoku, Rashad Bateman, and Jamal Williams.
So I face down the Aaron Rodgers question myself at this point.
Yeah, that's where I would be right around now had I not taken Lawrence.
Yeah. Now, in a regular league, I probably just keep on waiting because at this point, most have their quarterback. No, there's still 2 teams, right? No, 1.
No, it's just you. There's 2 teams that have a
higher.
second quarterback.
Yeah.
No, just 1 has a second quarterback so far, which that could be even more worrisome for you.
That's the problem is like they're going to start going. So
yeah. I mean, you don't take one here. I'm going back-to-back quarterback.
Of course you will. So Kirk Cousins, always interesting. SETI, not going to come with the most upside in the world. Russ, if you want to think that, Peyton's going to solve that problem and bring him back to relevance. Yeah, like that, that's a great late gamble if it works out. Trey Lance might not even be the starter. Anthony Richardson, I don't like that a lot of people compare him to Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts as rushers, but forget that they did nothing on there. Like Josh Allen was horrible in his rookie season and Hurts didn't play, right?
Yeah, Hurts played maybe 4 or 5 games at the end of the year.
So you can't compare a rookie to guys who broke out in their second and third year. Like it's a bad comparison. Bryce Young is not interesting. Daniel Jones is okay. Geno Smith could be the proper pick here. You still got Stafford. If he's come back fully healthy, he's usually solid for fantasy. But
Cooper Kupp's still going in the first round, so that's got to say something about Stafford being decent.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes a lot of sense. I think the guy I want though is Aaron Rodgers. I think he can bounce back. I think he's got better weapons around him than he's had in a long time, and I think he can. I don't think he's going to bounce back to being the one. But I can see him getting back into the top 5 somehow if he has a good year on the ground and stuff. So I'm going to go with Mr. Rodgers. I've never had Aaron Rodgers on my team before, so it's quite interesting. Running back here, a pretty similar grouping to what I mentioned last time. The wide receiver position that has thinned out. We got Jameson Williams, Darnell Mooney's here. That's interesting. Lazard, I could stack. I'm not sure if I would want to. Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, if you want that rookie upside. OBJ, if you want to play that game. I think I'm going to take another running back. It's been a long time since I've taken one. And Damian Harris is here, and I think the starter for that team. I don't think he's got sky high upside. Like you might have, I could see Penny outplaying him. Maybe Elijah Mitchell. San Francisco does a lot with their running backs. Singletary probably not. Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably not. A-Chain maybe. That's probably a good shot if you want to take a young one. But I think a steady Damian Harris. Actually, you know what? If I have Barkley, Chubb, and Pollard, I really can take a gamble at the running back position. I am going to take A-Chain.
Yeah, go with the upside shot.
Yeah, like Harris would be fine. And if I were to blow out an ACL with Chubb or something, I'd probably rather have Harris to plug in there just to be safe than risk, losing A Chain. But as of right now, I feel like I could take the gamble. So I'm going to lock in A Chain there, get a young running back in a interesting spot. See what happens. You could do worse in the 10th round. Jamal Williams goes right after me. Darnell Mooney, Kirk Cousins, Elijah Mitchell, and Cole Kmet goes off the board.
Yeah, Cole Kmet was an interesting one there, especially this late. He wasn't one of my late dart throws, but he was one where I may have had to pivot if he was still available there here in the 10th round. But he was kind of the last of the the tier of guys that I was really in. Dawson Knox, a rookie in Meyer and Kincaid, Ertz, not really guys I'm too thrilled about. So wait a little longer here and continue pounding the running back and receiver position. Two guys that interest me, one I talked about earlier, and Quentin Johnston. He's the other rookie that I like, so I wouldn't mind pairing him and Addison up to see if one of them hits. The other one is Alexander Madison. We're still waiting to hear what's going to happen there with Alvin Cook. And obviously, when we get to draft season, I think we'll know a little more. Either Cook will still be there, and you can assume he'll safely still be there, or he won't, and Alexander Madison will be drafted much, much higher. So for that reason, I'll leave Madison at least here for another round, go with Quentin Johnston to get another upside shot at receiver with a guy that I think has a really good chance to step in as at least the wide receiver 3 on a more heavy passing offense in the Chargers, and a little bit of more injury risk ahead of him at receiver that maybe gives him some more work. So Quentin Johnston, I'll take here. After him, Odell Beckham, Zach Charbonnet, Jahmyr Gibbs finally goes off the board. Dawson Knox, Rashad Penny, Michael Meyer. At the turn, Russell Wilson, Zay Flowers, Alan Lazard, and Alexander Madison almost gets all the way back to me here, but goes just ahead of me at 11-5. So, as we look at the board here, Damian Harris is still on the board. Another guy you talked about there who is a really interesting option. So got Singletary, Hunt, Patterson. At this stage of the game, I'm not going to take him. And then maybe this is someone that you're, interested in the gamble in so late. Clyde Edwards-Helaire going this late. This is where you're drafting guys that you're, okay to cut if you don't see it in a couple weeks. But he's one of the few guys that's this low down that has a shot. It's not likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see him come out and Andy Reid just goes all in. He plays well and he gets all the work, because the guy that beat him out last year is a 7th round pick, and just because he played well last year doesn't mean the draft capital isn't still there for what's the guy I'm blanking on ahead of him here, Steve?
Pacheco,
yeah. So he's someone that's interesting this late, and not someone I would take over Damian Harris here, but someone that I think late in the drafts isn't a bad dart throw. Maybe, and you'll see it early on. If he's, getting the clear RB2 work, you can move on after a week or two if you need to, but you may be able to work into something there. So still a couple of the tight ends, all 3 of the guys that I like still here. So I'm not going to pass on Damian Harris. We're going to lock him in here. Getting myself another running back to keep that running back receiver balance pretty even. Kareem Hunt next, Elijah Moore, Devin Singletary, Zach Ertz, and Trey Lance. I know you were really hoping to get Trey Lance there, aren't you?
Yeah. I really wanted him. Before I go on my quick rant, we do got to speed it up. We're talking a little bit, which makes sense because it's our first mock, but we got to go a little bit faster. With that said, quick rant. I hate when teams hit on a late round player, and it tends to be a running back in the 7th round. They hit, and then the next year they just replace them. Why? What's the point of even drafting in the 7th round if you're gonna hit strike gold and you're just gonna throw it away anyway? I don't get it. I hate it. It makes me so mad. But I hope
you see it all the time, and dynasty teams pull their hair out. That's why teams like James Robinson get traded so quickly, and why people were selling Damian Harris in dynasty this year, just because you can't trust teams.
No, yeah, and Tyler Algier. I mean, he wasn't late, but he was not an early pick. He did good this year.
Yeah.
And then they just, let's spend 1st round capital on another running back. What's the point, man? But whatever. I'm not a general manager, I guess.
Yeah.
So taking a look here, I I'll read off my team because I don't think I have in a while, or at all. We got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, so we're good there. The running back, we got Barkley, Chubb, Pollard, and A-Chain. At wide receiver, we got Olave, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Dotson, and then at tight end, Goddard. So more wide receiver shots would be nice. We'll take a quick look at the running back position. Clyde, like you said, P. Ryan is here. That is interesting. I'm not passing that up. We're just going to lock in
Interesting
Mr.
one.
P.
I just highlighted him as well. It's interesting to see him this late.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go this late in actual drafts. But there's a lot of confusion with that situation right now. So
yeah,
I understand it, but I'm locking him in because I'm not going to pass up a potential starting running back this late. So at the running back or at that wide receiver position, we got Allen Robinson, Renfro, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Hyatt, Tyler Boyd, Zay Jones, Sky Moore, Peoples Jones, Mingo, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Mechie. So Rondell Moore could be interesting. I'm sure he's going to be going up the ADP list with the Hopkins news. Romeo Dobbs is down here. Claypool, Isaiah Hodgins was pretty good last year for the Giants. So, maybe that's interesting. The name that jumps out to me, though, is Mechie. We got him on a dynasty league, down here in the 12th round.
You got to step your game up. I've got all these receivers with rookie. Right, I guess I had the running backs with rookie quarterbacks. You're going to one up me with a receiver with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, exactly what I shouldn't be doing. But second year guy, he's gonna be the one for his team. We're in the 12th round. Like I'm fine taking the dart throw at him. Seeing if he is something. Like he's got just as good a shot as Donovan Peoples Jones or Sky Moore, like at this point. So I'm gonna just go ahead and lock him in there. Allen Robinson does go next. Then we got Cordell Patterson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Dalton Kincaid, and Bryce Young.
And my weight stops here as all the tight ends are starting to go. The guy that I'm going to take without any hesitation, Mr. Chig Okonkwo. Steve and I are both big fan of his. Him and another guy that we were targeting here in our dynasty scavenging to get a tight end, and Greg Dulcich are the two guys that I feel like when I'm waiting late in drafts here, I would take them over some of the guys with bigger names like your Zach Ertz, your David Njoku. They're going to go ahead. But these later guys, I think, are going to get a good target share, especially Chig. I mean, obviously low passing volume offense, but I think he's got the upside to be, really one of the few pass catchers there. So not going to hesitate. Lock that tight end position here with Chig. Hunter Renfro next, Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith, Jacoby Myers, Jared Goff to end the round. Deonta Foreman, Raheem Mostert, if I can say that name, Greg Dulcich, Roshan Johnson, and Jerick McKinnon. Those two Chicago running backs were definitely interesting and on my board of potential targets there. So bummed to see both of them go, especially this late. You'd love to just kind of get one of that Chicago offense. So looking here, still some rookie receivers like Rashee Rice in Kansas City, just trying to take a shot on him. But a guy that I'm going to go with is a rookie running back in Jacksonville, Tank Bigsby. A lot of news coming out that they don't want to overwork the starter there. So I feel like you could have him. You have Dearness Johnson there as well, but you put some draft capital into Bigsby. I think people have liked what they saw there. So we're going to go with Tank Bigsby here. After Bigsby, Gerald Everett, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hyatt, CJ Stroud, and Mike Gesicki.
Very nice. So we're here with my last two picks. If you're new to the show, we do not draft quarterback or kickers and defense because they're usually the final two rounds, and we just don't want to waste time on them. So final two picks here. At quarterback, there's nothing, Jordan Love's here. If you want to just throw, a dart with a breakout guy.
Have draft Aaron Rodgers as backup as Jordan Love. That's kind of disrespectful.
Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be? Stafford's here if you're looking for upside. Maybe Purdy could take a step forward. Ritter, I doubt, but maybe. The tight end position, we do got Laporta here. Taysom Hill. Trey McBride, very interesting here. That's an interesting last round dart throw at the tight end position. Running backs, we got Kendre Miller, Chase Brown, Tajay Spears, Gainwell, Jeff Wilson. Jalen Warren's kind of interesting. Deuce Vaughn, maybe. Chase Brown is kind of interesting here. We'll maybe read. No, you know what? I'm going to lock him in. Just in case, if I'm drafting now, Mixon might not be on this team come, the start, and that could be Chase Brown's role. I'd imagine they'll bring in like a Zeke or a Fournette in that case, but 13th round, I'm going to take my shot. At the wide receiver position, I'm just looking for upside here. Sky Moore jumping forward, maybe. Rashee Rice having a connection with Mahomes. Windell's here. Again, Rondell Moore is here. I'm scrolling. MVS is still here. Van Jefferson, maybe, as a potential breakout. Nope. Not interested in anyone there. We're going to go with Rashee Rice. Grab a rookie that's attached to Mr. Patrick Mahomes. It's interesting that he's going in the 14th round where Sky Moore last year was going so much higher.
People got burned.
Yeah, they got burned. Well, if I get burned, at least this was my last pick. Kendre Miller, Tyler Boyd, Zay Jones, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Tajay Spears. You're up with your last pick.
So, Steve, when you're taking your last pick, you're looking for a guy that, you can cut if it's clear that he's not going to have a lot of action. And a lot of times you look for like backup running backs here, right? What would you say if I told you, I could get you a running back that looked good toward the end of last year, played really well, looked like he's going to be the one, had a couple guys then get, taken ahead of him in free agency and at the draft. But two guys that are very injury prone. So you're usually betting on an injury with these players, right? With the guys ahead of them. But this is a guy that has been on the team longer than the two guys ahead of him, produced last year, and has two guys ahead of him that are somewhat injury prone. And late in the draft here, a guy that I feel like I'm going to roll dice on is Mr. Kenny Gainwell from the
saw
Eagles.
That coming.
I mean, it makes sense, right? You have a couple guys ahead of him that huge upside, but the floor is low because of injury concerns there. So a guy that I think will be involved. And if it gets down to like a two-headed monster where one of those two guys gets hurt, I think both Gainwell and the other guy would be usable. So another good dart throw at running back here. We'll lock in Kenny Gainwell. After him, Jeff Wilson, Sky Moore, Tyler Higbee, Jaden Reed, and Jonathan Mingo to round out the draft.
Quick shout out. I was pretty sure you were talking about Gainwell, but in the middle, I moved to maybe Gus Edwards, and then I moved to Kyren Williams.
There you go. I was wondering where you were upon my rant there.
I bounced on the 3, but the moment you named that he was there longer than the other two, I was like, oh, it's got to be Gainwell at that point.
There you go.
Yeah. So that completes the draft. Let's do the rundown of our team. Will, you were in the 106. Let us know what you got.
Yeah, so quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Running back, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, Damian Harris, Tank Bigsby, and Kenneth Gainwell. At receiver, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnston. And at tight end, Chig Okonkwo.
Okay, and for me, out of the 12 spot, we got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. At running back, it's Barkley, Chubb, Pollard, A-Chain, Samaje Perine, and Chase Brown. At wide receiver, we got Olave, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Dotson, Mechie, and Rashee Rice. And then at tight end, we have Mr. Dallas Goedert. What do you think of your team?
Yeah, pretty happy. A little light at receiver, so would need one of those rookies to hit. But I feel like receiver is something that's a little bit easier to get on the market. It's harder to get a running back that's going to get carries. So when I go into a draft, usually aim to be pretty even at running back and receiver, and it's easier when you're just taking one quarterback, one tight end. But if I have to go heavier on one side, I usually prefer to be heavier on the running back position.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I'm, for drafting in the 112 and drafting a tight end in the first 5 rounds, I'm pretty happy with this team. Solid at running back, plus you got a nice shot with A-Chain there. A lot of
receivers worked out for you.
Yeah, a lot of breakout potential. It just feels a little light because I don't have that established stud already. There is no Stephon Diggs. There is no Tyreek Hill. Olave could be that. Dotson could be that, but they're not that right now. So, missing that top tier guy makes it look a little worse, but, solid all around. Quite happy with it. So yeah, that was fun. First real mock of the year.
First real mock of the year. First of many to come.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Tune in next time for another mock draft. Until then, folks, trust your board.